So I have the good fortune of having the founders of two of the most promising scale-ups in India at the moment, and that too from very varied sectors, D2C and EdTech, with us today. We'll probably start with brief introductions about yourself. What does your company do, and probably what's the vision that you're going after? Maybe quick introductions, Chakri and Tanushree. Tanushree, you want to go first?
Hello. So I'm Tanushri. I'm the co-founder of Doubtnut. Um, Doubtnut, by virtue of introduction, is India's largest education app in terms of just the number of daily active users. Students here come, click the picture of any question that they have a doubt in, and get a video solution automatically. We answer almost about 100 million questions that are asked through this mechanism every month. And students watch about 200 million videos as a result of this. Because this is such a strong use case, we've been able to penetrate extremely deep into at least the Hindi-speaking population of the country. And our vision is basically to provide resolution to the biggest anxiety that students have and the reason for which they actually drop out of education, even if not technically, but kind of lose interest in education.
Wow, that's a massive, massive scale. I think that's the beauty of the markets that we operate in, right? 100 million every month is, I mean, unimaginable. So great to see that. Chakri, over to you.
Uh, Pleasure to be here. Basically, Country Delight is a direct-to-home consumer brand. What we do is deliver fresh food essentials directly from the farm to the doorstep of customer. We are operating in 15 cities across 11 states, currently serving nearly 2 million customers through 400,000 households across the country. Great to be here and would love to learn and share.
Thanks, Chakri, and thanks for the introductions. Both of you have been entrepreneurs for quite long now. I'm sure you've seen a lot of cycles in the last, 5, 10 years of your entrepreneurial journeys. We'll probably talk about a pretty heavy topic today, more on sustainable growth, which seems to be the narrative going on currently. And we'd love to hear some lessons on what's going on with your businesses, how are you sort of trying to build for the next phase of sustainable growth. So on that front, right, like I think, the entire market basically evolved from probably growth at any cost to a very sustainable, profitable growth just in a matter of the last 2, 3 quarters, right? So, Chakri, maybe I'll start with you this time. What's changed in the last 2 quarters? What's same? What's changed?
So, Yash, for us, as a business, we are a essential commodity, and in one sense, we are a little less insulated, even for Tanushri, it's education. These are pretty much all season sectors.
Recession proof.
Yeah, reason to recession maybe little defensive. You can say not proof, but yeah, maybe like that. But what has happened for us is there was a lot of rush on growth because of excessive funding that was happening the previous year, especially in 2021. This has given us actually a little bit of breather to move at the right pace and work on the fundamentals of the business. But as such, nothing very significant has changed for us from a business standpoint about the way we're executing. Inflation has been a very big pain. Obviously, all of us are feeling the pain of inflation and we are navigating that, but it's a more medium-term trend rather than something very short-term from a business point of view.
Good to hear that. Tanushree?
So, when you ask this question, what changed? Are you asking what changed for us or what changed for the market?
What changed for you?
So, I mean, obviously there has been a massive change as far as the entire sector is concerned. So we actually saw two big events. One was COVID, and then, this is, you can say that it's related to COVID, but then COVID going back, and whatever you say, the funding winter coming out. So during COVID, a lot of businesses in the entire sector were built on non-fundamentals of business, and for a lot of people, the hope was that you will capture the market, and therefore, once the market is captured, you'd basically then kind of build a sustainable business from there. Uh, while while everybody was on their growth at no stage strategy, exactly at that point, the funding winter has begun. So it is basically making the entire sector go back to the drawing board and make sure that even if you reduce scale, you are basically trying to figure what business sense this will make. Having said that, one of the biggest things that I would keep saying is that unfortunately in India, ed tech was not just from a point of view of convenience.
Right.
The problem is that the problem of access is huge as soon as you step out of the top 3 to 4 cities in the country. And um, if the students have to study, EdTech has to be there. The form and shape could evolve. It's not like, the COVID has gone back, therefore the students are not going to need EdTech anymore. They're actually going to need it more and more, because now they have seen the difference in quality of what they get in their offline options versus what they get here. Just that the pricing may have to evolve to make sure that, that it makes a lot of business sense. You may have to make sure that you're not, disbursing loans where the loans are not required or where the loans cannot be paid for. So those are the things that are corrections, and it will only make this sector evolve and sustain.
I think all of us are basically saying common things there, right? Like looking more at fundamentals, building the right kind of foundations for the next phase of growth. And in a way, we're all basically being forced away from vanity metrics to look at things that really
The
matter,
question is
right?
also, though, how quickly is the vanity metrics going to come back again? Like, it is like the vanity metrics, unfortunately, is not only a founder driven or anything driven.
Ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who is a smart, intelligent person, you obviously know that, it doesn't make sense for you to burn 2 rupees to make 1 rupee.
Right.
But, it's just how you're driven.
Absolutely. And I think for us, I mean, at Moengage, from day one, we've always been saying that we're here to help you move away from vanity metrics. Stop looking at just like, oh, I've got, X number of installs or Y number of downloads, because it doesn't really matter if people are not coming back and using your properties and using your, buying frequently enough, right? And that was the core premise. And we, like you rightly said, people were like very focused on, oh, I got 100 million installs, but okay, what after that, right? Like, so when you think about your businesses, right, like, and when you think about the right kind of leading metrics which will help you set the foundation for this next phase of growth, what do you typically look at beyond, like, let's say, DAOs, MAOs, and, some of those ratios? What typically helps you better understand the health of the business? Maybe we'll start with you, Tanushree, this time.
So, our business has multiple different facets. I think DAO Mao is here to stay for us, because we kind of, so now DAO Mao, whether it is driven by paid marketing or whether it is organic, is the question that you have to answer. But DAO Mao is here to stay for us, because that kind of tells you that, the use case is strong, you are being able to resolve the use case effectively, and people are coming back again and again. So that is
Right.
there to stay. Over and above that, what is, and so again, I think speaking for Bharat specifically, and I know Country Delight right now is probably not serving Bharat as much as Doubtnut is, or there are a few products. We also have to realize that 60% to 70% of our users right now, for them, they've never made any e-commerce transaction ever.
Wow.
Like, they've never made any e-commerce transaction on Meesho, Flipkart, Amazon, even for COD. So while you're serving their use case, there are some macroeconomic changes that are also going to drive their ability to pay.
Right.
They may be really be satisfied, but they've never made any online transaction. So you have to give them that time, just to jump on it to say that, you we'll start making money tomorrow. Like, there are some use cases that you have to give some breathing time. So we are monitoring the amount of money that we are making per session, the amount of money that we are making per user. uh, I am not saying that we are going to break even very quickly. We will need to give them time to mature as an audience.
Understood. Chakri?
So for us, yes, it's always been about retaining customers and increasing the lifetime value of customers. From day one, the business was thought through a long-term lens, at least, uh, because of an age-old habit that's there in India. Nothing very special about it. But we have the luxury of thinking that, okay, if I have to slow my growth on customer acquisition, how do I widen my growth on cross sell by giving more products to the same customer, by working on top line and bottom line at the same time? How do I work on retention by expanding the scope of convenience services that I can offer to my customer? These are some of the things that we are answering now, while not aggressively pursuing growth but not reducing it either. That is the approach we've taken, and so far it's been encouraging for us.
Got it. And you, Chakri, especially on the country delight side of it, if I look back at the journey, right, you've been very deliberate about your growth. You've stayed under the radar in the initial first few years, and you've slowly built a lot of right foundations, right? So, but if you look back at this journey post the, let's say, the product market fit stage and to the stage where you are, and with the benefit of hindsight, what were your biggest learnings? And if you were to look back, what would you have done differently, Chakri?
So the biggest advantage in retrospect is that we were bootstrapped for 5 years.
Right.
So that taught a lot of basic hustle to figure out things with less money. And every time there is always a large thought and vision when you are pursuing your story.
Right.
But the idea is always to keep in mind what you have in bank, and calibrate yourself based on the funding environment and things like this. That's what we've tried to stick to the level possible. Uh, like, preempting inflation, doing a relatively larger fundraise a year before, some like things become
Yeah.
worse. These are some of the things that have helped to be tactical on the short term, but not lose focus on the medium term and the long term. That's what I would say.
Got it. And what would you have done differently, by the way?
uh, Maybe focus a little more on the brand is what I would have done a, a little more. But like, you can't regret things based on
Of
the
course.
situation. You're always in a very volatile uh, environment, and with when your business is growing 2x 3x every year, you can't micromanage things. So nothing specific.
Great. Tanushri, looking back at the journey, what would you say were the biggest learnings? What would you have done differently?
Yeah, so I think the last 4 years, so I would say 4 years or 5 years is where we've been on this journey for. And I think it is the amount of learning curve that is there is just not,
Move closer, I guess.
the amount of learning curve that is there is just not explicable in the words. But as far as the business is concerned, we've been a distribution first business. So until COVID, we were not even thinking about monetization at all. And from a distribution perspective, I think the way we have kept a very strong focus on the experience of the product and being able to constantly be in touch with the user. None of us here, even the most underprivileged people over here, will not be able to relate to our user segment and to be able to like talk to them constantly and keep a use case where to even today without spending a single penny, we get about 50,000 installs daily. We get about a million organic web sessions daily. So that is something that I feel very strongly about in terms of what we have learned and how we have kind of kept evolving on. In terms of what we could have done differently, I think what what you said is so brilliant that it's in retrospect we can always say that these are the things that we could have done brilliantly. But actually, oh, those were the things that we kept doing for the first 2 3 years to reach a stage of consideration. So basically be able to kind of constantly acquire users. Only once we kind of got a quorum of users, maybe we could have just said that, maybe we should have paused there and said that right now, let's say after 5 million users, let's take a pause and see whether we should start monetization experiments today or wait for getting to a 50 million user base and then start the monetization experiments. Um, but again, sometimes the thought is to basically become the topmost product that is being used by the users and then start monetization, because you don't want to hurt a case where you are basically like basically starting the journey too fast.
Yeah. Understood. Let's switch gears a bit, right? I want to spend some time on things which are closer to us as well, which is more on growth and retention and stuff, right? And I think both of you alluded to this in some form or fashion in the last few comments. But one important aspect that we also notice is the teams and people and the processes that are set up to be able to look at the right kind of retention and growth metrics, right? How's that functioning in your organizations? What kind of teams and processes are in place, and what really, has helped you set up that base for the right kind of, retention models per se?
So Aditya and I, at the beginning of our careers, were working in companies which were very hardcore number based, and I would say that even today I'm more of an analyst than anything else.
Right.
So for us, I think the first thing that we did is to kind of set our databases, even when we were, even when we were bootstrapped.
Right.
That the databases have to be extremely strong and they need to be processing numbers and providing the numbers very quickly, and we should be analyzing those very rapidly. So that was like, we are not able to operate without numbers. So I think the team that we built also, we were very clear that they need to be very data conscious and very number conscious. And let's say an acquisition is done. So if you're setting up marketing campaigns, we would go to the third level metric to make sure that that retention metric is being tracked and adhered to very carefully. So I think in terms of building team, very heavily over-indexing on people who are able to process data and understand data and analyze data. And uh, even in our content team, like,
Right.
Aditya, I think takes a lot of pride in this, that even in our content team, people need to know how to run SQL queries.
Wow.
So that it's not like, they are dependent on an analyst to be able to provide them data for their work.
It's extremely data-driven teams.
I mean, so again, maybe it's a handicap.
Right.
To begin with, it was a handicap that is now a strength.
Absolutely. Chakri?
So very similar to what Tanushree said. One of the reasons why we've been able to derive a little more success is because the data first and the tech first approach that we've taken. Half our growth teams and product teams come from gaming background. So in a milk company, you have people from gaming background. So that gives a sense on the idea and focus on data that we have as a team. But at the same time, at least we are little different in the sense that we are building a brand. So in a brand, you need to be very subjective as well. So we've at least taken a very iterative A/B framework. So there is the overarching framework is very software driven, you can
Right.
say, that where you're experimenting on everything, doing an A/B on everything, and choosing the successful experiments and taking them forward. So being very hyper iterative and choosing an A/B framework whenever you are in doubt, but not letting go of the subjectivity has helped us a lot. I would say.
Lot of common threads between the way the two of you have built your businesses, and probably speaks volumes of where you are today as well, right? Let's make it a little more personal, probably at this stage. A lot of probably future entrepreneurs in this room, a lot of people thinking about starting up and in this country. What's like that one piece of advice that you'd want to give to the future entrepreneurs in this room about building a sustainable business?
So I think the one very strong piece of advice about building sustainable business, or I think jumping into the entrepreneurial journey, is that it's a journey for at least a decade. actually decade is when you are starting. So you have to basically be, you can't be looking at short-term gains. We've just come out of a very long bull market run, and sometimes what happens is that there are a lot of people who you see would have made money in 2-3 years. Like,
Right.
started something, sold something. Sometimes the selling is good, sometimes the selling is good for the founders but may not be good for the company in itself. But what I'm saying is that if you kind of focus on that short term gain, then it becomes extremely hard on yourself also, because those gains don't necessarily come. But if you focus on building the business will get built, because you will persevere and make things right even during the downturns.
That persistence is really key.
Persistence, I mean, you have to build the business you have to get into this journey for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Shakri?
Yeah, very similar, nothing very different to add.
Got it.
The only thing I would add is just keep your survival in mind. Like, so when you say, when you're entering a business, it's always a function of what money you have planned for. So if you don't start your journey without a 3-year runway, at least, because it takes a year, 2 years to just figure out what you're doing. So without a minimum 3-year head runway, you should not even think of starting probably.
So, I mean, I think it's a very, very valid advice in the current environment. But what I, and what, because I always think about it in retrospect. A lot of times when you are getting the seed money, you're actually never getting it for a 3-year runway. So it's not possible for a lot of people to even, you are basically kind of going on with a vision and saying that, you're going to achieve this and you're probably going to do it in a year. And then you probably get the next roll of dice. So if you were to kind of, like, at least in my experience, if I go back and think about when I raised my first round of money in 2018,
Right.
there was no way that they were expecting, or that we could have done anything if we were to stretch it out for 3 years, because then we would have not made enough. But I think, to add to your point, I think once we reach that quorum again in terms of the funding, we shouldn't have kept running at that same pace of burning the money in like 18 months or 12 months. At
Back
that
at the
point, we
table
should have
again.
like recalibrated. And I think you use the word calibration. Calibration is supremely important. That at that point, you should have calibrated to say that, oh, okay, now you've raised a $15 million round. It's more than enough for you. You should basically think of it as a 5-year plan, not a 1-year plan.
Just to add a little to that, see, if you're raising institutional money, there is pressure to,
Numbers.
you've broadly achieved some form of PMF if you're raising institutional money.
Right.
And that's where angels come in. When you have angel money, the pressure is little less. You can be more experimental. And again, it's a little counterintuitive, but if you look at angel money in the beginning, you have the time and luxury to build a little, to experiment a little before you go for institutional money. And it helps you set the right context and fundamentals in what
Absolutely.
you're doing, probably.
Both of you are angel investing right now?
I don't do too much, but
Even I haven't done too much, just like friends.
That's fine. What's that favorite podcast on your list right now, Chakri?
not too much time for podcasts.
Book recommendations, podcast recommendations.
Book recommendations. The Amazon book is pretty good. I
Got it. Tanushree?
I am actually not into books or podcasts as much. I've read a couple of books during this time frame, but otherwise, like I'm just into work and then probably a couple of hours with family. That's about it. So no books right now.
Awesome. Thanks. We can actually take a few questions from the audience. If there's like 1, 2 questions, anything at all in the room, I can quickly take one question. Anyone in the room? I see someone back there. Probably, can we get a mic?
Hi. So my question is, Mr. Chakradhar. So like we had a session of omni-channel presence as well. So how do you see Country Delight as an omni-channel? So do you see the future? Because as of now, all the products which are like high quality product are available on the app. But other than that, we are not able to find it anywhere. So like what do you see as a future for Country Delight in that case?
So the idea of Country Delight is to build a direct-to-home brand. So when I say direct-to-home brand, what we mean is our products are meant to come fresh to your house, and that involves, managing the entire supply chain from farmer to consumer. For example, if you take a milk, most of our products come within 36 hours to your doorstep. So omni-channel might not be a very relevant approach for us, and we are actually trying to have a very different take on the way food should be consumed, or food essentials should be consumed in India.
Interesting. Anyone else? Have we? Oh, few of them. Probably we'll take this one here. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. It was a great session. So, Chakradhar, I have a question for you. So, since
Keep
you
the mic
mentioned-
closer, please.
I'm audible now?
Yes.
Yeah, it was really a great session. So, my question is for Chakradhar. So, as you mentioned that for around 5 years you ran a bootstrap business. So, wish to know about the mindset shift, like, from running a bootstrap business and, thinking about the numbers, money in bank and all those things. And then suddenly going into the funding way and, looking towards growth as a primary metric. So how did that thing happen? And was it actually challenging for you or you enjoyed the process?
So yeah, being bootstrapped, that's what I said, that, being bootstrapped is a big advantage if it eventually works out. Sometimes you might be at the wrong place at the wrong time. But the thing is, that's why I said angel money helps a lot. It gives you the luxury to experiment. But once you have raised institutional money, it is assumed that you have some form of PMF, and you have to build at a fast pace. So for us, actually, it was a good ride once we started institutional journey, because a lot of clarity was built over the 4 or 5 years of struggle.
And I think there was one in the center over here.
Hi, Chakradhar. So a big fan of your journey.
Wow.
Very quick
A lot of
question.
Country Delight fans today.
Yeah. A quick question about bootstrapping itself. How do you focus on building tech product while it's operational intensive at the same time, and handle the implications of not having enough funds, bootstrapping your company throughout this process, and at the same time looking for investment just to ensure the journey is taking right directions at the right time? How do you build around that?
Are engineering resources ever enough? I think it's relevant for both of you. I'd love to hear from
Maybe
both of you.
Tanushree can also add
Yes,
on
please.
this, because she'll have her share of experiences. But in the bootstrap phase, it is again very tactical and about the runway that you have. That is the first thing. To be honest, we had 2 engineers work on Country Delight till we raised our series seed round, and those were the guys who believed in the vision and stayed with us in the beginning. But everything was built by 2 guys till we started our institutional journey, and because we couldn't afford anything more than that. So it's a function of, taking you from A to B, and A to B involves getting a PMF. PMF means, what is it that you're going to sell, how are you going to sell, and probably, if possible, how are you going to make money out of it? These are the 3 questions that you need to answer for yourself. And if you can reach there, then you can figure the things from there. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you.
Yep. Tanushree, what's your take?
Yeah, so basically on the team side, I think I completely agree that, and for us also at least, because we were running a bootstrap business to begin with, at least in the early years, the mindset was very, for the lack of a better word, a very banya sort of mindset. And until we raised institutional round, we had like one full-time engineer, even though we were building a pure tech product, and 3-4 interns. And those interns were being paid like rupees 16,000. They were like college interns. And then even after raising institutional round, I think we had like 3-4 engineers working, even though you're serving millions of users. Even today, we have our total tech team size is 25, and I think even that may be a little more than we really require. I think the size of the team is more a metric that has been made for the managers and for the CTO, for you to boast of like a large team size. Honestly, I keep thinking about like the WhatsApp team. they
Yeah.
like sold off with such a small team and
Yep.
serving like, so the, the reason that engineering is or should be so expensive is because it can do with much smaller teams. If you actually increase the team size to thousands of engineers, like what is the point?
Yeah. Thanks for keeping it real, both of you. I think I love the insights. I think frugality is probably built in into the way you've built both of your companies from very early on, it feels like.
I mean, at least, I think that is the right way to do it. I'm not saying that we've been frugal all the way through, but you know what the right thing to do is, and you
Absolutely.
probably have to go back to it.
Get the best ROI of every investment that you're making, right?
It comes naturally to us as Indians.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Thank you so
I think
much,
there's one
both of
more
you.
question there.
Probably, okay.
There's just one more question.
One last question, probably. Yeah, go for it.
Hi. So my question is basically, having a tech-first departments right from the start can be very excellent. But let's say for an ongoing company where different functions are not that tech-heavy, or maybe not even analytics-heavy. Let's say for a sales department or even an ops department, they're not, they are not, having data and analysis on a regular basis. So either it is from top bottom we analyze it, but it's a lagging indicator where after a certain period in time where some things have fallen down, then we realize things has to be done. But if that culture can be built for an ongoing company, that would be really great. If you can show some light how we can build that culture.
So, and I think we, and obviously Chakradhar will have much more insight on that, but we were running a sales force of maybe, ranging from 100 people to 1200 people to 400 people at different points in time, and an accounts team of a large number of people, and a content team, which was very, very large. I think the most important thing for for anything to run smoothly was to get data immediately on whatever is being processed. If content is being created, you should have whatever the quality metrics very soon. If sales are being done, you should have all the different metrics coming in very soon, because and the entire org becomes data driven. I think if it comes from the top, the entire org basically becomes like that. I'm sure that there are organizations which can run without that also, but then every organization has a different DNA. For us, just having a number, even only at the end of the day, was just not enough. Like, we really rely on hourly numbers and real-time dashboards.
So you've also democratized the entire data access also, right, in a way across your entire
Yeah,
organization.
everybody has access to everything.
Yeah.
No, see, sometimes I can understand in analog businesses, it's very difficult to understand how tech will come and play a role. But unless your data, what is tech and data? Finally, it is access of information at a very quick pace. And the quicker you get information, the quicker your decisions will be, and the more agile you are, and the more you build things faster. So while even if it is unintuitive, it makes a lot of sense for you to just enter that black box to just get access to information quicker. Like if you just focus on that one metric, that itself can make a big difference to what you're doing and the way you're doing. That said, when we look at, one is tech and second is scaling. So access to data is one aspect. Second is scaling. Scaling doesn't require tech unless it's a problem that needs to be solved for 1,000 people. If it's a problem that needs to be solved for 10 people, you don't need tech for it. You can find the most efficient way of doing it, and that's what we've chosen, till a problem required to be scaled at a very big level. So just balancing between these has helped us so far, at least in navigating some of the problems that we've
Just a
seen.
follow-up question in case you allow me to.
Sorry?
One follow-up question in case you allow.
Yeah,
In
go
the-
for it.
So basically, let's say even they are monitoring different sets of data. We have a certain department, let's say a BI department that analyzes different sets of data. But for them to have regular data crunching for all the departments, it's difficult. So let's say if we can build that culture where even let's say the sales department monitors that their
Yeah.
that will be really beneficial. So I was, asking in case we can build that culture, or we can have some steps where, even from ground up, we have that analysis made and, thoughts coming from ground up?
So honestly, I actually definitely believe that one data department should not be data crunching for everybody, because that I think is the worst thing to do, because then people kind of rely on the data department, which is absolute, not only a bottleneck, like the data team will not understand the data as much as the business team will, or whoever needs that data will. So if a person himself or herself doesn't think to begin with that they need data, then probably at least somebody who has an experience, I would say that you will really need to coach, or it may be a red flag in itself. I mean, of course, at the entry level, you probably need to coach. It can't be a red flag. But at senior levels, for me, it probably will be a red flag. So it can't be like, the data team has to provide the data. You can provide them analysts, but the data team can't be doing that for everybody.
No, nothing else. Fair.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hopefully, good learnings for all of you in the room from this session. And thanks a lot for sharing so many insights in a very transparent fashion. I really appreciate a lot of common threads which actually came out from both of you. So thanks again for joining us today. And stay around for the next entertainment event, I guess. Thanks everyone.